Well, if it came to putting together a top 10 of Bristol's best-looking Victorian buildings, then this one, the old Granary around the corner from King Street, must come somewhere near the top of the list. It's a great example of what they call Bristol Byzantine, which is supposed to represent the high point of Victorian art. David, it's called the old Granary. Is that what it was?
It certainly was a granary, Richard, yes. In the 19th century, Bristol was a very important centre for flour milling. Huge quantities of grain were brought in by tall-masted ships from the Americas and also from Australia, and brought into granaries and to flour mills that line the docks here along Redcliffe Wharf and here at Welsh Back. And this really was the finest of the lot, built in 1869 for Bristol flour millers Wayton James and designed by local Bristol architects Ponton and Gough.
It's got lots of different windows all the way up through.
It has. Well, this is all part of the wonderful decorative effect, but really had a practical purpose too, to provide ventilation, because it was important, of course, that the grain didn't go off and rot.
Something like 10 stories today?
10 stories indeed, that's right, yes.
About 100 feet tall?
Yes, about 100 feet tall. And one of the important features of this is that it is such a pretty building. Many granaries, including some of those surviving in the docks, and of course there are more out at Avonmouth, are pretty ugly buildings. They have lifts and hoists on the external facade of the building, but here on the granary we find that they're all enclosed within internal niches in the corner of the building, the corners of the buildings, and the grain was actually offloaded into carts through the circular apertures that we see above the first floor, the ground floor pointed windows.
Nowadays, the Granary houses a Belgian restaurant and bar, but in the 60s it was a jazz club, and later, through the efforts of these youngsters, a rock venue that ruled the local music scene for nearly 20 years.
So Al, it started one night a week, but it very soon grew, didn't it?
It certainly did. We started on the Monday night. By we, that was Terry Bray, Stephen Newsom, Mike Tobin and myself, a group of musicians. Took over the Monday night, then we took over the Thursday night, and then we took over the Saturday night, and after about 5-6 years or so the jazz on the Friday nights finished and we had a club.
You finally squeezed them out.
Squeezed them out, yes. It was rock music all the time. Yeah.
So remind us of some of the people who played, because just about everybody did.
Well, I think most of the bands used to do the club circuit, and the Granary was an important club on the club circuit, so you'd get all the bands on the way up. Later on we got a lot of them on the way back down again, but in the early days I think it was King Crimson and Yes, Genesis, there was a Vinegar Joe who had Elkie Brooks and Robert Palmer on vocals, Dire Straits even. And heavy bands, we had Judas Priest and the Scorpions, UFO, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden. Oh, the list goes on, it's endless. Well, it's not endless actually, but 2,000 odd bands played there.